Welcome to my channel. This is My Messy Fingers and I'm Charlie. Today we are going to start on a new playlist. This is going to be for the album I'm making called Merry and Bright by Graphic 45. It's their new Christmas collection. So the first video is going to be the actual album build itself, and we'll go step by step on how to put this together. So I'm using gold cardstock to wrap my album. It will be my pages and it will be what I use throughout the build for all the other flaps. So let's get started with what you're going to need. You're going to need 2 panels. This album's going to measure 9 by 9. It is a holiday album, so I'm anticipating that there will be some larger photos, so we want to make sure that we're going to allow for some good room for those to be displayed. So you're going to want 2 of them that are going to be 9 by 9. Your spine piece is going to be 9 inches by 1 7/8. This will fit 2 pages that will support 4 signatures, plus you'll have each of the panels, your left and your right inside panels, which will give you a total of 6 signatures to work with. You're also going to need, at least for my albums, you can choose your own binding method if you want, but I use a product called TYVEK. It is a shipping envelope. It is extremely resilient, almost no tear, and the reason I love using it is I put this to the outside of my album so that then the designer paper is floating over this and not the rough edge. So it kind of glides, it kind of acts as a protector. You're going to want 2 of these if you're using my binding method. They're going to measure roughly 8.5 inches in length. They're going to be 2 inches in width. Then you're going to score at 7/8, and then you're going to score at 1 1/8. I want a 1/4 inch gusset in between each of my pages, so this is how I mark that gusset, and it makes sure that I've got room to manipulate pushing, which you'll see a little bit later, pushing some of that cardstock down into the gusset so that it's not building up on top of the gusset, but that it's building down inside the gusset. So let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is pull off a center piece of tape first. These are 9 inches. I cut it down to 8.5, just simply because you don't want TYVEK sticking out at the very end. So what I'm doing here is I am running this chipboard right along that score line. And while I'm back here, I might as well take this little piece off. You can get these at any office supply store. You can get them at Scrap and Create. If you get them at an office supply store, you're paying a pretty penny and you're getting multiple envelopes, which will last you a lifetime. You can pick this up at Scrap and Create, who has actually sent me this collection for me to make this album. They'll sell you 2 envelopes, which will last you through quite a few albums and at a very reasonable price. So the link is provided in the description below. Now I'm taking the panel, it's coming in next, and I'm going to put it here on this side. I just kind of stalled myself out there. I was just thinking, make sure I was doing something the right way. I'm using my grid to make sure that everything is straight. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to lay this right on that 1/4 inch score line. Now we're going to add this piece to this side. Line that. Oh, I brought this all the way to the bottom. Oh well. I was more making sure it was straight. It'll be just fine. I'm glad at least I'm not way down here at the end because I just don't like seeing this. Once it's wrapped, I guess you wouldn't see it. But anyways. Too funny that I did that. All right, so now I'm going to line up to my grid. Make sure that I'm straight. And then I'm going to add, unfortunately, this is going to have to come in really close to the end because that's where I put that tape. Silly girl. All right, so here are your panels. Now, I'm working with gold cardstock. You might choose to use a different color. That's totally fine, but you're still going to want to follow the measurements. First off, I want you to cut this. You're going to cut it at 11 inches in its height. Because this is a 9 by 9, I want a 1-inch border all the way around. So the first thing we're going to do is adjust the height of the paper. So cut it down to 11 inches. Then I want you to run a 3/8 of an inch tape because this is going to be our binding spot. And a 1/4 inch tape I don't think is enough to handle the open, close, and everything else you're going to add. So 3/8 of an inch. Then that means you have two pieces that are cut at 11 inches in height, but one piece is going to be at 11 3/8 in its width, and the other one is going to be at 10 1/2 in its width. Did I do that right? Yeah, okay. So they're going to sit on top of each other like so. And then you're going to take this, the album, with the TYVEK side down. I didn't cut that piece right. I have to cut another one. I cut it short. I don't have enough over here to wrap with. Well, for Pete's sake, I thought that was, I gave you a wrong measurement there. All right, so let me start over again. We're going to go 11 inches. And I'll use this later. No. Okay. I just got myself all discombobulated. Okay, so I'm going to run my 3/8 of an inch tape. This is kind of how I get around to what I need, so you're going to get to watch. All right, so I'm going to line these back up. This one I know I've got at the right. I want to place this album so that this seam is down the middle, and then I want 1 inch over here. So I'm going to come over here, measure, and I'm going to mark, and then I'm going to cut that off. All right, so now it should work. All right, so again, we're going to try this again. So you're going to have 3/8 tape securing your seam, and then The spine, much better. The spine will be placed in the center. Where the seam is placed in the center of the spine. And the reason I do it there, which means I'm cutting paper off on this end, is there's going to be a lot of pressure on this because it's a seam. I don't want my seam here, and I don't find it to be aesthetically pleasing to have it out here. I don't want it here, so I want it here in the center because then I'll be able to hide the seam. And because the seam is going to be wrapped, yes, you're going to see it here, but it's more pleasing to see it on the spine than it is here on an edge. Because when you're looking at the front of the album, your eye is always going to be drawn to where that seam is, and you're going to wish it wasn't there. So I put my seam in the center of the spine, and then I have a 1-inch square around, and that's what I'm going to tape to secure it when I go get ready to wrap. So first things first, I'm going to tape this on, and I'm going to follow the tape line all the way up. Now that that's together, I have to address how I'm going to get this on here. So, moving this out of the way, on the back side of this, on the side that you have the TYVEK, we're going to put some tape down, and quite a bit of it. Here along the edge, I'm going to put a row of 1/2-inch tape. And I'm going to do that 4 times. I want my cardstock pretty secure at the hinges. And then I'm going to take 1/4-inch tape, and I'm going to start down here, and then I'm going to go in the middle, and then I'm going to go in the middle again on each side. Now, I know my lines aren't straight. That's not the point. The point is we want to make sure that the cardstock stays down against the chipboard. Nothing worse than to be looking at your finished product and you notice that your front of your paper is kind of popping up a little bit, like there's some air behind it. Well, that's because it's not secured down against the chipboard. So there we go. Let's get this burnished. Now we'll bring this back. And once again, I'm going to line up to the center, and I'm hopefully about 1 inch around. I'm giving it a good eyeball here. And I'm going to plant my hand here. I don't want to move it because I got it fairly well centered, at least to my eyeball. And then I'm going to peel the tape off of the spine, keeping good pressure on my left hand. And then I'm going to just gently lay that down. Now, I'm going to take 1/2-inch tape, and I am going to come and wrap the length. Now, I'm just going to do it in one continuous length. If you want to do it in smaller lengths, that is entirely up to you. And then when I get done doing this, I'm going to take 3/8 of an inch of a tape and I'm going to go around the perimeter of the chipboard, excuse me. Okay, so let's get all the tape handled here. Whoops. Put that on my work instead of away from my work, I wouldn't have to be crossing my arms over each other to go find it. Okay, one last piece and then we're going to miter our corners. Whoops, first we got to put the rest of the... Okay. I'll burnish that later. I forgot that I hadn't removed this tape. All right, important part here. When you go to take this tape off, pull it all. I don't know what I was thinking. I just totally blew right by this. I was intent on getting that paper attached. Okay, you need to hold on to your chipboard here, and you need to give it a bit of a tug, because if you don't, you're going to have that TYVEK is kind of waffly, so it's going to collapse on you, and you don't want this gap to be crooked or shrink. So we'll do it again. We're going to remove all the tape, if I can get in there. And again, you're going to hold on to this, give it a little bit of a gentle tug, and lay it down straight. This way your gussets are straight, and you're not going to have issues with your pages being lopsided because you didn't pay attention to keeping that gusset open. Very important. All right, now we're going to miter corners. And everybody has their own way of mitering their corners and what they want to see. So feel free to do whatever is comfortable for you. Now, when I go to get ready to push this over, I need to break the fiber, if you will, in the paper so that it will bend. So first I'm going to push it over, and then I'm going to come in and do a good firm burnish up next to the edge of that cardstock. I am going to peel back the tape on this edge. And then I'm going to peel just a little bit back, fold it out of the way here, so that when this lays over, it's not laying on top of the tape. Oh, might help, Charlie, if you took the rest of the tape off. Boy, I am just all out of sorts, I guess, this morning. What a goof bird. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, center out. And then I'm smushing and folding my corner back here on both of these. I call it smooshing. All right, so let's, that same process. Okay, and now I'm going to come down here and do this end. All right, now we'll get to the last piece. Starting at the center and out. Now the next thing I want to do is very gently, I'm going to push this cardstock down into this gusset. I don't want my gussets to build up this way and be full of paper, because then when you go to close it, I've had at times that these have bunched up and not laid flat. So when you do, I use this because it gives me a pretty good smooth edge. You can use a nice round ball if you want. Just be careful, because if you press too hard, you're going to tear that paper. So you'll want to be gentle, and if for some reason you do tear it, just take a glue that dries fairly nicely and just put it in the seam of the tear, because at this point you're going to be covering up that tear anyway. All right, so now we fold this. we have some nice tight corners. We're not seeing them round and full. All right, next page. Next step, I mean, is we're going to work on our pages. And I'm hoping I can use this piece. So I think I can. I just have to cut it down. So what I'm going to work on first is my height. I really don't want these to come all the way to the end here. So I am going to take a tick mark and see just where did this measure in at. Right at 9 inches. Woohoo! And the reason this is 9 by 9 and this is measuring in at 9 is you gained some height when this paper got wrapped around the chipboard. So I'm trying to use this piece here. So let's just double check this again. I think I'm going to want to bring that down a little bit now that I've got that cut. Use a different trimmer. So that was at 9. I think I'm going to bring it down to let's bring it down to 8 7/8 because we're going to split this difference right here. Let me get this down here. You're just going to see what I'm talking about. We're going to split this difference between the top and the bottom. So let's bring it down to 8 7/8. All right, we've got some good height here. I'm getting a rough cut on my cardstock. Okay, I'm going to score them now. And I am going to score this at a 1/2 inch and at, no, I did that wrong. These I want scored at 5/8. I totally blew that. And then we're going to fold back on the 5/8 score. I want a 5/8 gusset here. That's what we're making. It's going to go in between the pages. Now, to figure out my length, I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to mark where I want this to be in its length. And we've got a piece we have to put here in the middle yet, but I want to get my pages set. So I'm going to come in about 1/4 inch, and let's see what my overall measurement is. I'm at 9 5/8 by 8 3/4. So you're going to want to cut 2 of these. These are going to be your pages. So let me cut my other one. Is going to be 9 5/8. And then 8 3/4. And then, that does not seem right. I didn't do something right. Oh, I missed that. I read that wrong. It's 10 1/2. 10.5. What in the world was I thinking? Boy, this is a real good video for you, isn't it? By 8 3/4. So 10.5. That's okay. I can use that piece later on in the build, so it's not like I ruined it. Oh, I know where I can use it at. Pete's sake. I am such a ding-a-ling. So 10.5. By 8 3/4. That looks better. Okay. Get that out of my way so it's not confusing me. And then I am going to come in here and at 5/8 give myself a score. And I cut one. Really on a roll here, I tell you. All right, 8 3/4. Ta-da! Now I'm going to take this piece that I goofed up on, and I'm going to cut this down to 6 inches by 8 3/4. So I want it 8 3/4. And I want it by 6 inches. And then we're going to cut this by 6 inches. And this is going to go here in the center. Wow. These are really off the top. I apologize, people. I am not happy with what I'm doing. I really am not. I really am not. I sure hope you're just watching and not cutting, because we'll use it. We will use the cardstock, but this is not the way to learn. So I am back at, I don't want it to be 9 inches because that's the width of the cardstock, so I'm about 1/16 off the bottom there. So I want to be right here. I just don't like my signatures that short. just going to go through this process again. And I'm going to come in about 1/4 of an inch. So from here to here is 8 and 5, or I keep doing 8. It's not what it is. So 9 and 5/8. We will get past this, I promise. Okay. I am going to go ahead and put my, this is, I want this to be 6 by 8 7/8. So I'm going to take one of these. I want it to be 6. I do know what I'm doing. I really do. I've done this 100 times, but I don't know why I'm making mistakes. 8 7/8. So that's at the right height already. No, because it's not. It's too short. I do not. I'm so... You know, I feel like I need to just stop this bloomin' video and start all over again. Now I'm getting frustrated. I don't know what it is I'm doing wrong. I have done this a million times. So this piece here needs to be the same height as the pages. And I kept coming up short, so I used it as my guide. So I can't be too wrong now. And I'm about just about 1/8 of an inch off the top and the bottom, which is where I want to be. Now let's see if I can get you to moving forward here. I've got another one I need to cut, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to settle myself down by moving on, getting this piece in. All right, tape to the center. And then we're going to tape the perimeter of this. Still baffled what I was doing wrong. Now I bet somebody out there knows. They're looking at it going, what'd you do that way for? I get what you're trying to do, but you're not doing it. All right, let's do a burnish. Now, the reason I'm not taking the tape down into here is I'm going to take care of that with the perimeter tape. And I have a tendency to want to take it too close to the edge, and then you get those hairy frays and you can't make them go away. So I just want to make sure that I have the tape where I want it to be. So we're going to take this off, and then we're going to place it so that it is, because this is almost 2 inches right here, and then you lose a 1/2 inch here. This is 6 inches, so I want this to be as even on both sides of those gussets as it can be, where I've got even amount here. Now I'm not adding pressure to the tape yet, and I'll show you why. I'm not going to burnish it down. I just want to get the tape off. All right, now, remember when we pushed down into the gusset earlier? Well, we're going to do that again, but we're going to do it now for the entire length. So you're going to bend this until you find where your chipboard edge is, and then you're just going to apply a little bit of pressure to get this. It's not working with that this time, it's too thick. I want to find that chipboard edge. And then I want to very carefully push this down into that gusset. So that it folds up in there. And then we're going to do the same on this side. You're going to just gently bend, find the edge of the chipboard. In particular, that edge that runs along the spine, because it's going to be used here in a moment for placing the pages in the album. If I can cut the second page correct. Silly girl. Just be careful, be ever so careful, because if you tear this, you can't make the tear go away. All you can do is prevent the tear from getting worse by putting some glue to it. All right, now I can burnish. Okay, so there's our album. We still got some nice tight corners. Now I'm gonna add some tape. It's a 5/8 of an inch gusset, so I generally use 1/2 inch tape. Now right here along this edge where you see the chipboard, you're going to come off just a smidgen, not much, just a smidgen off of that, because you have to keep in mind that the part of that is a buildup. And then did this lay even. Okay, now I'm going to attempt to cut again another piece. Because I'm not trusting myself right at the moment, I'm going to cut it to this length right here. And then I'm going to cut it to this height. I'm just going to pencil it because I am not wanting to make another mistake. Okay, I'm happy. And then this is going to be 5/8. And we're going to add some tape, varnish, and then we're going to come right up underneath this page, tap this down very gently, because what I want to do is I want to make sure that these are lining up when they lay down and they're not askew. So it looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish. Now I'm not covering these inside panels. This is a waste of cardstock, and I've already wasted enough cardstock. This is going to get covered when we do our signatures. So this is your album. I apologize profusely for the multitude of mistakes that I've made. I don't know what got into me, but there you go. So I'll see you when we start to do the actual outside build.